Hi there, and welcome back to the Daily Hope. I'm Lynsey, and today's Devo comes out of Acts chapter 27. We are just one chapter away from finishing up the book of Acts, and we've come so far. We have gotten to witness Paul's conversion to Christ in this book, and then we've gotten to watch him and the apostles build the early church through the power of the Holy Spirit. And then we've watched the way in which God used tremendous persecution to blanket surrounding areas with the gospel. And now in this chapter, Paul is finally getting to go to Rome. He's wanted to take the gospel to Rome for a long time. And through the persecution of prior chapters, he's appealed to Caesar, and now he gets to go. If there's a reality that Paul lives with now, it is that his life is in God's hands. He has had to live through so many moments in which his life, the control of whether or not he was going to live or die, was not in his control. He had to surrender that to God. We see him here in this chapter now. He's in another catastrophe. He's not being persecuted, but you might say that the weather is persecuting him. He's on this ship, this big, huge Alexandrian cargo ship. It's from Egypt, and he's on there with Luke, who wrote this book, the book of Acts, and also another believer from Macedonia, and this Roman centurion guard, who his name's Julius, and he's been commissioned with taking Paul and other prisoners safely and securely to Rome, because other prisoners need to await trial there or be transferred there. So Paul is a criminal on this ship, but he has found great favor with Julius. And so he is bold enough to tell Julius before they go out on this voyage that it's not going to end well. Paul knows this area and the surrounding waters, and he's warning them, this ship may look bigger and it might look like it's going to be okay, but this isn't going to end well. Julius doesn't heed Paul's warning, and he ends up listening to the pilot of the ship, who I'm sure said, this is going to be fine. It's all going to be well. But they go out onto the sea, and sure enough, in just a day's time, a massive storm hits. And it says there's hurricane force winds surrounding them, and everybody on board's panicking. Now, there are 276 people on this boat. So Paul and Julius and their little company is just a small smidget of them. But they're trying to figure out, they're throwing cargo off, throwing tackle off. They're doing everything that they can to try to survive this storm. And they exhaust all resources. They've lost their guide. There's no stars or sun to be seen. They don't know where they're at. And the ship is so close to being broken into pieces. And it says here that everybody on board lost all hope of being saved. If there's somebody who knows that feeling on board, it is Paul. That feeling of losing all hope. But God also knows the feeling of God meeting him in that place. And God just does just that. Paul becomes this voice of reason and of hope and of encouragement in the middle of despair. And he says this in verse 22, men, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete. Then you would have spared yourselves this damage and loss. But now I urge you to keep up your courage, because not one of you will be lost. Only the ship will be destroyed. Last night, an angel of the God to whom I belong and whom I serve stood beside me and said, do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar. And God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. So keep up your courage, men, for I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. I have faith in God it will happen just as he told me. Nevertheless, we must run aground on some island. God doesn't use the commander of the ship or the owner of the ship or even this Roman centurion guard, all who seem to have authority and knowledge and skill, but he uses Paul to speak to these people who are in this hard place. And what Paul says to them, he says, an angel of the God to whom I belong and whom I serve came to visit me. Sometimes as Christians, we forget, especially in the middle of catastrophe, that we belong to God. We're Christians. And the world has wanted to hijack that identity. But what comes along with that identity is that we belong to God, that we know him and we serve him. We have the capacity to hear him and learn from him and be in relationship with him. And that makes all the difference in the midst of catastrophe. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll go to God with something that's hard, but something else I just completely leave away from him. And I don't know why I compartmentalize life that way. But God is meant to meet us in it all. So maybe there's a difficult relationship you keep him out of, or you're in financial ruin and you feel like he's not in that place, or maybe you're struggling with different things that are going on around us right now. We're Christians and we belong to God. He's made us for the shipwrecks and he's made us for the storms, to be the people who, not that we don't despair or feel hopeless, but that we have access to him. And we're meant to be an encouragement to the people around us. So let's just keep our eye out today. Let's keep watch for those moments where we're forgetting that we're Christians. And let's remember that we belong to God, that we hear him, that we have access to him, and that we get to believe him for ourselves and for the people around us. That brings tremendous purpose to our days. So look out for those shipwrecks and those storms around you. God has made you for these moments. Bless you.